for everybody. My eulogy is way shorter than Father's, and I've got a lot of curse words. Thank you for coming today to honor the life of our sweet Arlene, Ginga to our family, and to much of the world. And before I say a few words about her and her life, let's acknowledge that Grandma is in heaven, super pissed right now. We had this mass for Ginga, and COVID prevented us from having one for her. So if you see cracks in the ceiling and walls, you know that's Grandma right now. So how do you begin to talk about a person who lived 103 years? All the things she lived through, all the changes that have happened in the world in all that time. In 1919, the year she was born, Woodrow Wilson was the president. A quart of milk was 9 cents, a pound of steak was 26 cents, and a loaf of bread was 7 cents. The average price of a new car was $500 for people lucky enough to afford one. And let me tell you, Ginga and Grandma's family was not among those lucky ones. I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that Ginga and her siblings had an easy life. They didn't. Ginga was born into a poor... Geez, I didn't expect to get it. Emotional? Ginga was born into a poor immigrant Italian family that came over on a boat to try to make a better life for themselves. That journey paid off, but probably more so for the resulting generations than for themselves. But that was the sacrifice they made. Oh, thank you. Ginga wasn't afforded many of the luxuries most of us grew up with. Her and Grandma and brother Louie and sister Peony, who we called BB, had to get by with the basics and make do with what little they had. Ginga was actually born in the house on Williams Avenue, right down the street from the church. And Grandma even remembered and talked often about hearing the moment Ginga was born and hearing her cry in that dirty room. Can you imagine that scene and that experience of being born in that house in 1919, outside of a hospital? That was the start of her humble life. Ginga grew up facing many of the prejudices of Italian immigrants that faced them. She didn't have parents that spoke English or who could advocate for her in school, and like so many other kids in her situation, dropped out of school at a young age and missed out on a lot of education and opportunities. But what Ginga did have going for her was her amazing attitude, her incredible personality, her quick and easy laugh, and her ability to make friends wherever she went. Those traits lasted her a lifetime. I would say her biggest downfall, or certainly the one our grandma harped on and bitched about their entire lives, was her inability to plan for the future. The problem, and what Grandma couldn't understand, was that Ginga was having too much fun living in the present to worry about the future too much or at all. All the tragedies and disasters that Grandma was always planning and working so diligently to prepare for were not on Ginga's radar. Ginga loved to dance and grew up dancing with her brother, my Uncle Louie, and performed and taught dance classes. But of course, that didn't take her very far, and with her lack of education, she didn't have too many opportunities. She ended up going to work for my grandfather, and I think most of you know what he did for a living. Let's just say she wasn't getting any 1099s at the end of the year or contributions to her 401k plan. And can you imagine a 4'0" little woman going around collecting money? That's how spunky Ginga was. After my grandpa passed away, Ginga started volunteering at a couple of the local hospitals here in town, where she delivered cards and made people smile for 30 years. I always said, Ginga, if you were only getting paid for all this work all these years, you wouldn't have to worry about money. But Ginga loved to volunteer there. She always loved going to the senior center as well, and playing bingo and going on bus trips, gambling, and of course trips to Italy with my grandma and our family. So despite her obstacles in life, she led one hell of a good life. It's also pretty well known that Ginga went through a quote-unquote husband or two. I just don't think anyone could keep up with her. But unlike my grandma, I'm not going to elaborate on that topic and just leave it there. You're welcome. Ginga loved to bake. The only thing she loved more than baking cakes and pies and cupcakes and chocolates was eating them. How she loved her sweets. I can remember going into her basement where she baked her magic and letting me lick all the pans and bowls and spatulas clean. Ginga was always the fun relative. Now, admittedly, those who knew my grandma know that the fun meter was not set very high with her. But even if it had been, Ginga was leaps and bounds ahead of her and everyone else. As soon as Ginga walked into her room, the party started. She had a never-ending energy bursting out of her all the time. When everyone else was beat and ready to hit the sack, Ginga was like, "Hey, hold on. I'm sure as hell not going to bed like your damn grandma. Let's party, kid. What's on TV? Anything good, partner? Shit, I've seen that before. What else we got? Any basketball on? Who's playing? Those dumb bastards are going to lose anyway." I can hear her voice saying exactly all those things. And as God is my witness, still to this day, I don't know where Yankee Doodle Dandy actually stuck the feather. Because Ginga sat us on her lap a million times and sang it that it went right up his ass. And then called it macaroni. And something tells me that's not really where it went. She would spread her knees apart to pretend to let us fall and say that, and it never failed to make us kids burst out laughing. Of course, to the eye rolls of our parents. She even did that to my girls when she must have been 90 years old or older. Amazing. When we were little and would go to the beach together, I would go crabbing on the bay where we'd have to walk through this mucky marshland to get to the crabbing spot. And Ginga would always want to come along. She'd ask if my grandma would want to come, and my grandma would say, "Have you lost your damn mind, Arlena? Hell no, I don't want to go. You're crazier than hell." Trust me, I can hear my grandma's voice in my head saying exactly those words too. But anyway, off I'd go with my crazier than hell aunt in tow. She was also funnier than hell and not a bad crabber. When the crab lines would get pulled out, showing there was a crab on the end of the line, Ginga would say, "Frank Allen, there's a crab, there's a crab. Get the son of a bitch." And let's talk about cussing a tiny bit. Father, they bolted.
They're behind you.
Sorry. It's just as well I didn't say this in the church. Ginga and my grandma pretty much taught us all the cuss words growing up. All my elementary schoolmates were amazed and impressed with my early and vast knowledge of cuss words that I learned from her and my grandma. I always thought shit ass and little bastard were terms of endearment and not bad words. If you were a little bastard and she pinched your ass, you were doing something right, not wrong. Everyone was an asshole or son of a bitch. And if they weren't, there was something wrong with them. Man, what a trip she was. I could go on and on and on. But fortunately, we have all the countless videos that show some of her and my grandma's antics to go back and relive those great laughs with them. I'm so thankful we have those. And there are millions, and trust me when I say millions of people from all over the world that get and got laughs from them all the time and will forever. Sheila and I have received countless messages from people all over the world, many times over, who have said the smiles from Grandma and Ginga got them through some tough and dark times of their own, and how much they loved Grandma and Ginga. And I think Ginga and Grandma also showed everyone that your life does not end in old age, and you can still truly reach people's lives, even in the twilight of your life. While Grandma had a more take it or leave it attitude towards their fame, Ginga sure enjoyed her notoriety. She loved having people come up to her, asking to take pictures of her wherever she went, and she loved to recite her famous 1, 2, 3 sex instead of cheese. before the picture was snapped. You know, some or most of us probably never find our true calling. Some seek it out or stumble upon it, and some, like Ginga, might never even have realized they found it. I think she did. I believe her calling was to make people smile and laugh, and oh boy, did she ever succeed beyond anyone's expectations. She may not have been the smartest or the richest person around, but she sure could spread kindness to every single person she met and bring joy to their hearts and a smile to their lips. I can't honestly think of a better legacy to leave behind. I know things have gotten a little rowdy in heaven since Ginga arrived. The music is playing, there's some dancing going on, bingo being called out on the speakers, there's a nickel slot machine in the corner that's empty, some sports on TV, a late night movie coming on late, some cakes in the oven, and surely Grandma and Ginga arguing and cursing at each other. May God bless her and everyone around her with eternal laughs. We love you, Ginga, and sure thankful you made us laugh for all these years. Now go ahead and start shaking those little bells for St. Peter.